National runner-up season, 2 years removed from that. Jim, how far can this Aztec squad go? A lot younger than the normal teams we've seen under Dutcher and his staff.
Yeah, we've seen by age a little older teams and more experienced. He mentioned to us that 90% was a number. They lost 90% of their scoring and 90% of the minutes played last year. He's put this thing together with a deck of cards and has it playing pretty good at the right time.
Great officiating crew here. Doug Sermons, Tony Padilla, Nathan Hall, as we are off and running here in Dayton. Second of our 2 games tonight. Boy, Guath wasting no time. Fires one from deep. Tar Heels looking to push into the corner to Withers. And that's stolen. Miles Bird got those long arms.
I'm not sure if that was a steal or just a gimme just then. It was right to him.
San Diego State, as good a defensive team as there is in the country, Jim.
Yeah, they use their hands a lot too. Spiro out front.
B.J. Davis stops on a dime and rattles it in to get us our first points.
He's known for his defensive effort too, but if he can come out and give them a little bit of a lift, gets about 9 points a game, but has to keep active.
Quick answer. Elliot Cadeau working hard and able to get to the rack for Carolina.
Coleman Jones sitting back on that one too. Was not much of a challenge with a little float going with his left hand.
Guath posts up, young man who saw his confidence rise every time he stepped on the floor in what has been a tremendous season prior to that injury. It's a turnover here, right in front of that North Carolina bench, and some early words, Jimmy, being exchanged.
I think his length hurt him right here because he goes after it. Little arm around the neck. Everybody's okay though. We're only a minute 15 seconds in, Spiro.
These young Bucks have been waiting around, hanging out all day, waiting for this game to tip just after 9 o'clock Eastern here in Dayton. As we get a whistle here, looks like a little bit of a discrepancy with the clock, and they're going to redo that inbound.
Hold on a second. There's a minute and 84 seconds left in the first half here. Now it's 2:24. They got one on the shot clock, and maybe we're going to get out of here earlier than we thought. That was the quickest first half I've ever seen. Now they have it.
Hubert Davis, everything he's tried to balance, the psychology of this team after they came up just short in what would have been just an amazing victory against Duke in the semis of that conference tournament in the ACC. Another turnover, their second already.
Yeah, you see the deflection out front by Davis just then. You got to make sure of every single pass. Nice fill here for a 3-point shooter.
Coleman Jones, a little bit short front of the rim. And North Carolina looking to push quickly. This is Withers. I don't think there was anyone who was happier on this North Carolina team than Withers to get into the field.
I agree with you on that.
Reset Davis, hard screen. Lubin on the roll, the bobble. And they'll have 3.4 seconds to shoot, says Tony Padilla underneath.
An easy set there defensively. Hubert Davis' team going for that little slip cut, but it was well defended from the weak side by San Diego State.
North Carolina, one of the most efficient offenses in the country, thanks in part to that young man. As R.J. Davis, a little bit too much. Offensive rebound, Carolina, fresh shot clock.
They got to make sure they run their second and third options against San Diego State.
Cadeau lets it fly and hits.
Drive to the basket, a 3-point shot. Good start for him to get things going.
Jimmy, break down all the numbers for Carolina. It really comes down to one. When this team hits from 3, they're a completely different team to deal with.
Oh, watch out.
A little bit of contact on the perimeter. Boyd trying to fend off defenders. Reset Davis underneath Coleman Jones. 6 to shoot. Into the corner to Boyd. That's good.
Real patient offensive set just then for San Diego State. Make Carolina work both sides of the floor.
All Mountain West second team selection was Boyd, the young man out of Gardnerville, New York. Nice. There's a steal.
Boy, Davis has deflected, I think, 2 passes already and a steal.
That time Boyd a little bit short from 3. And Carolina on the push. As the field
look at
process
this.
continues, Bird the theft.
Oh, boy.
Boy, rips it back. He's going to fire. Wild sequence, offensive rebound. This is Guat, a little bit out of control, and he's going to shoot free throws.
It was an interesting set there, wasn't it, offensively? Well, he's going to start. Spiro, he's going in for a crank, but he looks over his left shoulder there to see if anybody was behind him. And what happens when you take your eye off the ball? You usually fumble it.
He was barely able to stay in bounds on the baseline. And Magoon Guat, you heard the report from John, the hyperextension of his right knee, sustained it on February the 22nd against Utah State. Aztecs Jim, in his absence, went 3-3. But you consider how good they were. They had really started to put it together before the injury. They'd won 7 straight games. And then they hit the reset button again with Dutcher and his staff.
Yeah, and you know, he scores just under 9 points a game, but the presence of him defensively for Brian Dutcher's team is just incredible. The way he shot, you know, he patrols, I should say, down in the middle of the floor, but blocks a lot of shots. 66 this season coming in.
So the turnover issues for Carolina. That's a 3. Withers. Boy, and anyone who knows this program knows how big a shot that is. Encouraging signs for the young man who has been sensational in his second year in the program.
With his three-point shooting, he had 7 made threes against Notre Dame earlier in the season.
They get him reset. Coleman Jones out front to Davis. Henry pass, the deflection, and the turnover.
Layup if you hurry.
Ahead of the pack is Davis, lays it in.
Good work by Carolina to push that ball, get it to the middle of the floor, but I love the release pass in the backcourt after the turnover.
So just over 4 minutes gone by. R.J. Davis, second all-time leading scorer in the history of this program. And that's saying something when you think of who's come through that school. Some of the all-timers knocked out of bounds underneath. Last touch by the Aztecs.
I think they're going to get a foul on Guap, though.
San Diego State and North Carolina on a big stage. Think of how good they were last year, a 1 seed in the tournament, eventually lost to Alabama in the Sweet 16. They were 10 in the preseason AP poll, but obviously wasn't quite the season that they had anticipated, the massive expectations. There's athletic director Bubba Cunningham, also the chair of the NCAA selection committee. It's been an interesting few days for Bubba and the school, but here they are, Jim, after all the controversy, all the conversation. Last team in the field, and right now holding a 4-point lead.
Yeah, when speaking to Hubert Davis yesterday, I thought it was just smart of him, just saying that we got to almost move on. Made it sound like he doesn't spend much time worrying about other things rather than his team, but I think he's right. He's just got to get his players to play.
Taj DeGorville has checked into the game first time for Brian Dutcher. Shot clock down to 1. They've got to hurry. Coleman Jones. Oh, boy, didn't recognize till it was too late. And North Carolina ratchets up its defense.
Yeah, we've been speaking about the San Diego State defense, but Hubert Davis's team, head coach of North Carolina, as you said, they've been upticking it a little bit the last few possessions. The hands for San Diego State are so good in terms of deflections, keeping their hands in front of people.
This is great foul.
Deflection right there.
Coleman Jones. And the Aztecs rip it back. 7 turnovers for Carolina.
You got to convert on them. You got to make the points out of those turnovers.
San Diego State, 6 of their 7 shots have been from 3.
Yeah, I think they have to just be more selective. There you go. Good drive to the basket before the shot was taken, so it's on the floor.
Wayne McKinney, the senior who's checked into the game first year in the program for Brian Dutcher after 3 years at San Diego. And R.J. Davis whistled for his first. Second team foul against the Tar Heels.
Watch number 40 in white, too. Heidi loves to go to the offensive glass.
Heidi, the sophomore. Boyd, good seal there defensively. With Ian Jackson defending.
They got to hurry in a second time in a row here.
This is DeGorville, tough leaner going. Glass missed it. And a rebound by Jalen Washington.
Yeah, both teams are just shutting one another down here early on. The last 2.5 minutes or so.
Well, not the kind of field goal turnover ratio you want, but despite that, the Tar Heels holding a 4-point lead. This is Davis, pulls up, buries it.
Just not fair when you get a 6'10" guy coming out to guard you like that. If you, R.J. Davis shoots the ball very well from long range, but can attack off the dribble. You don't know what he's going to do if you're a 6'10" guy.
ACC's Player of the Year last year.
Good hands out front, too, by Trimble.
Here comes McKinney all the way to the rim, missed it in tight.
There he is on the glass, Spiro.
Heidi.
Yep. He tracks the ball very, very well, understands when to go, when to wait, set a screen, and then charge to the basket.
Heidi was actually scoreless in their last game. The conference lost to Boise State. There's the pull-up jumper that time from Seth Trimble. And the Tar Heels come up empty. This is Boyd, the orchestrator, changes direction. They got him at the rim. It was Powell, got a fingertip on it. Here he comes in the open floor, taking flight. Boy, the defensive tenacity.
Man, are they going after? Fabulous.
5-point game. Kick near side. This is Boyd. Got it.
Just going to say, they have to settle down just a touch, San Diego State. They're playing that up-tempo game like Carolina wants to play, and I'm not sure it's to their advantage.
Into the corner. Powell with a three-point answer.
What did you say about Carolina if they hit threes?
They're 4 of 4, Jim, from deep to start this game. What an encouraging sign for the Tar Heels. 5-point lead. And now we get some substitutions for both teams. What a scene this has been. First night of the tournament. Dayton, Ohio. A privilege to be with you. True TV crew, Spiro Ditas, Jim Spinarco, John Rothstein, our producer Jason Ross, and our director Corey Fishman. Rest of our crew. First of 2 nights here in Dayton. Three-pointer there won't go from DeGorville. And one and done for the Aztecs.
Yeah, Compton very close to picking up a foul on that offensive rebound try.
North Carolina as an 11 seed. It's their lowest seed in the tournament since seeding began in 1979. As Trimble is bumped, he's going to shoot free throws. And Brian Dutcher in that San Diego State sideline just irate at that call. 5-point Tar Heels lead in Dayton.
All right, here with Brian Dutcher. How do you tighten up your three-point defense?
Well, you know, we got to make sure when we switch, we're trying to make Davis drive. So we got to get up on him, make him drive and do our help. So he's good. That step back is tough to deal with.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, Brian Dutcher, another roller coaster ride of the season. Team that won 8 of its first 10 games. They were 20th in the AP poll at the end of December. Obviously had to deal with the Guath injury, overcame that. At one point, the 7 straight wins, eventually losing the quarters of the Mountain West tournament, Jim, to Boise State. Yet here they are, hoping to make another deep run in what has been just a tremendous run under Dutcher and this staff.
And no back-to-back losses, which is an interesting stat line, too, at the bottom of that graphic.
Dutcher was displeased with that last call that is going to put Seth Trimble at the free throw line.
Yeah, just a bit, I would say.
I think John got some of that earful that Dutcher was firing in the direction of the officials, but Seth Trimble.
Not the greatest time for John to go over and interview him.
He's a great man.
Yeah, exactly. Good job, though, John.
81% free throw shooter is Trimble, junior, Wisconsin kid. A little bit of a struggle from the three-point line over the last 5 games. But a young man who's had a tremendous season. He's had some big moments, averaging just better than 11 points per game.
Well, guys, I appreciate, being commended by you two for my bravery, but Brian Dutcher, you could tell, was just very, very animated about the fact that North Carolina got free throws. He told me before the game, we can't have droughts. Every point matters. You see that early in this game, guys. It's a lot easier for Carolina to score than San Diego State.
Well, he put his television face on, though, too, John. I thought he calmed down in a hurry and reacted to you.
He's a pro. Farrell had it poked away. Tar Heels on the push with Trimble at the rim. It's a block. And they're going to put Trimble right back at the free throw line. Aztecs a little bit late defensively. Compton just couldn't squeeze it. The freshman out of Chicago.
Coming from behind, too. There was an opportunity for a block shot. You have to try to pick up that charge. And he goes right back to the line again. Spiro, just like John touched on with the ability for North Carolina to appear, and they have been scoring easier than San Diego State. The question becomes, can San Diego State be patient enough, attack, and get good shots at the same time against what I think is a much better Carolina defense than they've been told about, everybody's been speaking about.
This is now the Tar Heels' biggest lead. This will show you where these two teams sit in the baby brackets. The 2-11 seeds, winner moving on to take on Ole Miss. So B.J. Davis, after a brief rest, back onto the floor for Brian Dutcher as we hit the 11-minute mark.
Good communication so far for Carolina, especially right here in this possession.
Shot clock at 4. Gloth spins, fades. Boy, looked pretty good with that shot. Couldn't put it down in its last touch by the Tar Heels.
Yeah, but when you have a 7-footer who has to fall away to get their shot off, that's a good sign for Carolina's defense.
So the shot clock resetting to 20. Underneath.
Oh, there you go.
Gorville. Davis snuck in. Boy, he bobbled it initially.
Sure did.
Boy, they're going to catch a break. Last touch by the Tar Heels.
This is a layup.
Another chance.
That's a layup if he catches it cleanly, like you just said, Spiro. And that bobble allowed Davis to climb the ladder just then and block it. Another deflection out.
Jim, this is always the deal, it seems like, with San Diego State the last couple of years. Ferocious defensively, but they just have these stretches.
Yes, I agree.
Where their offense fails them. They're 4 of 15 shooting. That's a 26% clip. Can they get their offense going here?
Pretty good job by Trimble just then defensively also. Switching everything out front.
On the wing, this is Bird. He will sling it. Well short.
Nice look up for Jackson.
Jackson surrounded. Boy, B.J. Davis
never gave up.
sprinting back. Well, you can never say that this Aztec team doesn't defend with every ounce that they've got.
They had 3 guys back in a hurry just then in transition defense.
Tough inbounds is tracked down by Lubin. Here he comes. Gloth, look out. And more free throws coming up for Carolina.
That all started out by the 3-point line, Spiro. When that ball was thrown out, defensively they gambled and it paid off for Carolina. They never quite got back into a position to get in front of them. I guess who got the foul on that one? You could choose one of 3 guys.
Jim, that's going to be the second personal against Gloth, so that's a potentially big call. Looks like he may be taking a seat here with 10:22 left in the half.
Almost looked like the guy on the right side may have grabbed the arm first, too.
So he will indeed sit with the Gorville. There's Van Allen Lubin at the free throw line. Young man who has been sensational of late. Just a tremendous run in the ACC tournament last week in Charlotte. 4 double-doubles in his last 5 games. And the junior Jim has been their second leading scorer since the middle part of February.
20 and 10 number against Duke the last time out. Carolina has this going in the right direction right now.
And look at that number right there. Last time they've had a double-digit lead. They haven't given up many of these. Free throw numbers key, 9 straight points. Compton coming with some nasty.
Well, that'll work for a guy who's really, over his last 7 games, is 19 for 24 from the floor. You get shots like that, you can see why he's shooting 80%.
Boy, Aztecs desperately needed that. Open 3, Withers. Second 3 of the half for the graduate from Charlotte.
You know, sometimes you can sense when a team is really getting the rhythm offensively. I sense that the Carolina team is getting the rhythm at the defensive end of the floor rather than the offense.
Bird,
There you go.
couldn't squeeze it. Ahead of the package, Trimble, and it's all Tar Heels. North Carolina making their early statement here in Dayton. Alabama State advancing in a thriller earlier tonight here in Dayton. Tony Madlock, former Auburn assistant, moving on to take on the Tigers with his Hornets. And meantime, this hot three-point shooting for Carolina, Jim, continues.
Yeah, it's pretty simple basketball, too. You get the guards from the front, and this is a beauty over the top, especially with the way San Diego State gets back usually on defense. That was a perfectly thrown pass by Cadeau.
So how does San Diego State respond now? You see the run for the Tar Heels, 14-2 over the last 3-13. Compton, little flick at the rim, misses badly. And the rebound underneath by Elliot Cadeau.
That was just an out-of-control shot. Nice recovery, though, by Compton getting back.
A 14-point game as we have crossed the 9-minute mark now. Miles Heide will check back in, a sophomore for Brian Dutcher. And the freshman Compton will sit. Again, it's the thing about the Aztecs. They're not a great offensive team. You can't afford to fall into these big holes. Already playing down 14.
Oh, they have to start by getting the stops, obviously, too, which was well defended just then. I think you're going to see Boyd try to take over a little bit more from the backcourt position, number 2 in white.
See the breakdown in the shooting numbers for the Aztecs. 27% overall, 5 of 18 from the field.
They're trying to squeeze the floor a little bit, but you notice how Carolina's kind of areas from the outside, but that's not going to go.
Long three from Boyd. Tar Heels, Jim, will give him that shot all night. As Drake Powell will check back in for Hubert Davis, and Seth Trimble will take a seat. And right now, Brian Dutcher just looking for some answers down along that bench.
Yeah, I think if you're Hubert Davis in North Carolina with San Diego State shoot 2 for 10 from the three-point stripe, I think you're right on the money. Give them that outside shot until they prove that they can put some of the... Thanks, Grant.
Boy, tough catch. Bird got him cleanly up top, but maybe Boyd with the bump down low will put Lubin at the free throw line. And Carolina a chance to push this thing to a 16-point lead.
See the way they converged. I think it was who got that one? Boyd on the other side. Little reach in.
So North Carolina 22-13, and with 13-7 in a really kind of a down year for the ACC. They finished in a 3-way tie for 4th place with Wake Forest and SMU. And then in the ACC tournament, they really kicked it into another gear. They beat Notre Dame, took down Wake Forest before that heartbreaker against Duke, Jim, in the semis. But really the last 2 months after not having the first half of the season that anyone hoped in Chapel Hill. One thing Hubert Davis touched on in our chat with him yesterday, really proud of the fortitude, the mental toughness that his team has shown. Saying whatever you will about whether or not they should have gotten that at-large bid.
Look at the way they're collapsing right there, though, Spiro. They just shut things down really nicely in the middle of the paint. Because if you're not shooting the ball from the three-point stripe, they get allowed to cheat like that and squeeze the middle of the floor.
Ground zero for some of the most amazing aviation history. National Museum of the U.S. Air Force here in Dayton, Ohio, oldest and largest military aviation museum in the world. A couple of seconds ago, John Rothstein with Hubert Davis.
All right, I'm here with Hubert Davis. How has your offense been so crisp against their defense?
Well, it starts for us defensively. I think that there's 2 things that have allowed us to be successful over the last 5 or 6 minutes, one, we're taking care of the basketball. At the beginning of the game, we were throwing the ball all over the place. And San Diego State is such an excellent defensive team of getting deflections and steals. And then number two is we're playing great defense. We're finishing the possessions with a rebound, and then it's allowing us to get out in transition where all year we've been pretty good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, John Hubert Davis, 4th season at the helm of his alma mater. Of course, that memorable 2022 rookie season, becoming the first coach to reach the Final Four in his first season since Bill Guthridge back in '98.
And I think he broke it down pretty well, how this game began with his team throwing the ball all over the place. Look at this finish now.
Lubin!
Wow.
Angry flush for the Tar Heels.
But then they have settled down like that play just showed on the offensive end. They are really clicking right now.
It's an 18-2 run for North Carolina.
And nothing easy for San Diego State.
Well, this is danger time right now for the Aztecs. Missed 3 from Boyd. And very few second chance opportunities for San Diego State. And for a team that, maybe a lot of the experts felt like shouldn't have been here. Right now, North Carolina is carving them up here in Dayton.
Bluff may have gotten a finger on that ball just then with a partial deflection and gave it an interesting spin to put it into the basket.
So Cadeau now 3 of 3. He's got 7 points to lead all scorers. And a whistle blown here on the perimeter against the Tar Heels. So look now from our AT&T connected cam high above the rim. And Lubin with a forceful finish in tight.
Especially when you don't have to dribble it, catch it and pump to the basket.
Jim, what can you do here to try to generate some points if you're Brian Dutcher?
Well, like in that first game with Alabama State in the second half, they turned it into like a driving type team. But look at the way they're closing the floor down. They just have players all over.
Boy, Gloff lost the handle to get a late whistle that's going to put Gloff at the free throw line.
That one was going to make a highlight reel just then.
It's on Powell. That'll be his second. Seth Trimble waiting to check in at the table for Hubert Davis. And that's one that Gloff felt like he should have finished. What a redshirt freshman year it was for this young man.
I think the numbers that's staggering, Spiro, too, is the 13 points up on the board that San Diego State only has.
Boone Gloff, if you just hopped on with his first game since February 22nd, he's missed the last 7 with the hyperextended right knee. Mountain West Freshman of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year as a redshirt freshman this season for Brian Dutcher.
And they have to make up a lot of ground defensively.
Tough little floater from Withers.
Pretty good numbers defensively, too, just then. Not a good pass here.
Boy, Nick Boyd fortunate that was last touched by Carolina underneath with 24 seconds to shoot. The Aztecs, Jim, just 1 basket in the last 6.5 minutes.
Well, I keep pointing it out, Spiro, the way North Carolina in their man-to-man defense is, I call it like cheating to the middle of the floor, but they will park their guys right in this area when the ball is on one side of the floor. Watch, there's a nice little slip cut, doesn't get it to go.
Taj DeGorville won't get a better look than that. Up the floor quickly, Trimble up and under. They get it all working.
Well, a little hops right there for Trimble. Thought he was going to lay that off for a 2-on-1 opportunity.
Boy, the Aztecs are taking it on the chin from Carolina. It's a 21-point differential. DeGorville looking for some daylight.
Yep, see the help side defense.
Bang. Miles Bird. And Bird's still looking for his first basket. And look at that scoring ledger. The balance, the efficiency from the Tar Heels has been incredible. 3-pointer from Trimble, rebound Heidi.
Well, 15 minutes of basketball says anything. Says that Carolina belongs in this game right now.
Or you think they've answered the question?
Wow.
This is Boyd. This is Badley. Offensive rebound. Guaf.
Finally, good work off the offensive glass just then, but they got a big hill to climb here. Their job right now is to try to get this thing down to about 10, and Carolina wants to keep the pedal down. They got a mismatch down low if they want to take it. Here it is. See if they clear out on it.
Washington stepping middle and makes it look easy.
Good execution, good recognition. Everything going right, as you just touched on, for Carolina.
Washington, the junior out of Gary, Indiana. And with 4:19 left in the half, Carolina's lead back to 21 points. Here's Boyd probing. Hasn't been his night so far. Nick Boyd now 2 of 9 from the field.
6 of 25 as a team.
R.J. Davis
pretty quick with the ball. And here's that mismatch again. Small versus big.
Cadeau.
It's over the top, I believe.
This will be on Washington underneath. And that's a rare miscue offensively in what has been just an offensive clinic for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, and here's part of the clinic. Get it to your big guy down deep. 6'10", nice soft touch. He gets a friendly roll.
Jim, they've been really almost perfect.
They have been, and they're mixing it up, Spiro. That's the beauty of it. You know, whether it's the slip cut, whether it's the plays getting out on the break, the three-point shooting. You know, the one thing to re-emphasize, I think, is that when you look at San Diego State's 16 on the board, obviously they've struggled with offense, but they're a good defensive team, and Carolina just put a clinic on so far with 37 points already.
Did I say 37-26, Jim? I meant 37-16. 21-point differential.
I think everybody knew.
Getting late here, Dave. There's a three, boy, badly needed basket by Coleman Jones.
You just have to find a stop or two if you're San Diego State.
There's a deep three from Jackson. That won't go.
There's a good-looking shot, though. I thought that one was going to go.
That's a start for Brian Dutcher in the staff. You get a three and then a stop. Here's McKinney. Out of Coleman Jones. Davis. Davis going to pull. And missed everything. So B.J. Davis just 2 points as we check in with John.
All right, Spiro, North Carolina being comfortable in an NCAA tournament game shouldn't be a surprise. 5 players on the Tar Heels roster. R.J. Davis, Elliot Cadeau, Jalen Washington, Jalen Withers, and Seth Trimble played in the Sweet 16 last year against Alabama, Spiro.
You know, R.J. Davis says we get a jump here position now. We'll keep it with the Tar Heels. R.J. Davis is actually the last player left from that Final Four team in 2022. Hubert Davis's first year, but you're right, all kinds of tournament experience. And Jimmy, just wondered psychologically, how would they come here tonight? All the pressure, all the conversation the last couple of days, but boy, they have answered that question resoundingly to this point.
Yeah, I think you got to go back to what Hubert Davis said. He basically said yesterday to us that, you know, we can't dwell on the fact that we were supposed to not get in or get in and worry about it. We got a game to play, and boy, they really are playing well.
Boy, Davis, pretty floater, just couldn't get it to drop.
Another good look right there for Davis.
So final 2.5 for the half. Here's Davis to the rim. The tap by Compton, no. And Tony Padilla says stay right here underneath out of bounds with 20 seconds to shoot. So an 18-point game with 2:22 left. Can they make a push here with the Aztecs shooting 25% from the field if you've just joined us? The San Diego State team that went 14-6 in the Mountain West Conference this season.
Carolina guards are really shutting people down out front. Just not letting them catch the ball in the perimeter. You're not comfortable as a player.
Trimble, little Euro step. And he's going to shoot free throws. Trimble really good tonight, drawing fouls.
Yep. And when you are playing with an 18-point lead like this, you can play a little bit more carefree and positively and just continue to hammer away at it, and that's all they're doing. They're looking at the front window, not the rear view mirror right now. The rear view window spirit. They're just going right after it. Straight down.
Well, stay tuned. AT&T at the half comes your way next. We'll get you back to our Atlanta studios. Adam Lefkoe, Jay Wright, Jalen Rose, Seth Davis. Get you their first half thoughts. So Seth Trimble already his 5th and 6th free throws of the half. That was the 6th team foul against the Aztecs. And this thing right back to a 20-point lead. And the winner of this one moving on to Milwaukee. Ole Miss awaits.
Still a long way to go, but if they duplicate this second half with an offensive foul and Compton just then, Carolina were to duplicate this in the second half, they can leave here with a lot of confidence to move on. Yep. Moving screen.
So first on Compton.
I'll tell you, John spoke to Davis about the turnovers that this team had early in this first half. They haven't turned it over in a while.
Cadeau put him on skates. Underneath for B.J. Davis and a late whistle. They're going to put Lubin at the free throw line. Jim, the other thing, you look at the numbers in this first half. San Diego State is the #1 field goal percentage defense in Division I. They hold opponents to 37.8 shooting. Carolina in this game is shooting it at a 57% clip.
Including a 5 for 7 number from the three-point stripe.
They are doing this against arguably the premier defense in the country.
Brian Dutcher continues to keep the revolving door open to try to get fresh bodies out there. He's looking for a combination just to get something going on the offensive end.
And the Tar Heels still haven't missed at the stripe. 12 of 12 for the half. And they have been near perfection so far.
I'm really impressed with their defense. As much as they are solid and beyond solid on the offensive end, it's the defense that's really overcooking it.
This is Wath on a 3.
Believe it or not, he has that in his arsenal as a 7-footer at 37% from 3. But just this goes to show you how difficult points are to be able to get that from the 3-point shot for a 7-footer.
So inside of a minute left before the intermission, Carolina with possession, playing with supreme confidence. Davis gets the shoulders squared, and Carolina just can't miss. Little two-man action. Guath gets it back from DeGorville, and he will shoot.
Davis knows how to score points. And he reads defenses as well as anybody. When they switch off on you and he sees an advantage, he just takes advantage of it in a hurry.
Jim, we mentioned it earlier, the 3-point shot is the barometer for Hubert Davis's Tar Heels. When they have shot at 30% or better this season, they've won 20 of 25 games. Below 30%, they're 2-8. Tonight, 6 of 8 from the 3-point line.
And obviously making the 6 out of 8 is a big number, Spiro, but I like the 8 shots they've taken. None of them have been hurried, none of them have been forced, just in the nice flow of the offense. And that's exactly how you want to really design it if you're Hubert Davis.
32.9 left, late stages, first half. It's been all Tar Heels on True TV. There's Bubba Cunningham, North Carolina Athletic Director, again the chair of the Men's Basketball Selection Committee. We'll talk about Carolina, last entrant into the field. Of course, Cunningham was not in the room when the discussion on Carolina's entry into the tournament, recused himself, shall we say, from those conversations.
That's a nice way to say it.
But putting his North Carolina hat back on tonight, has to be awfully pleased with what he's seen from his Tar Heels. This has been a thing of beauty against the San Diego State team, who on their best day can play with any team in the country. Elliot Cadeau against Boyd. About a 3-second difference, shot to game clock. Aztecs are out of fouls, 6 to shoot. Cadeau, a masterful handle. Davis, deep shot. North Carolina throwing down the gauntlet here in Dayton.
Just when you think you might get a little bit of a stop on that play. Oh, my goodness.
John Rothstein standing by with Seth Trimble.
Thanks, Spiro. Seth, how have you put a 47 on this defense in the first half?
We're focusing on the defensive end, doing what we need to do, getting stops, and then we're able to run, get on transition there, and then guys are doing a really good job just knocking down shots.
For a month, everybody has talked about the bubble. Are you looser now than you were the last month because you're already in the NCAA tournament as a team?
I mean, yes, sir, we're here now. Nothing to worry about but us now, so that's our only focus.
Have a great second half.
Thank you.
Spiro.
All right, John, that's a wise young man. What a performance. High efficiency offense from Hubert Davis and the Tar Heels. And a lot to talk about for Brian Dutcher and the Aztecs. Well, all the amazing aviation history, the 1905 Wright Flyer 3 sculpture here in Dayton, Ohio. As we take a look at our first half stats presented by the Home Depot, it was all North Carolina. Most points given up by the Aztecs in a half this season, and this is now the second largest deficit in a game that Brian Dutcher's team has ever faced since taking over this program from Steve Fisher. As we welcome you back courtside, Spiro Adidas and Jim Spinarkle. We'll hear from John Rothstein in a second. We do want to mention these gold pins that we're wearing in honor of our lost friend Greg Gumbel. Yep. Of course, the first tournament since we lost Greg, and always thinking about him and his family. Jim, as we start to think about what we're seeing so far from this North Carolina team, just an incredible performance in the first half.
Yes, Spear, there are a lot of things that jumped off the page. We started with San Diego State talking about how well they play defense, and they do play pretty good defense. Not today, because Carolina is really working on them and making it very easy at the offensive end. I would point out that 5 players have 6 points or more for Carolina, so they have good balance, and they didn't turn the ball over for the last 14 and 38 seconds of the first half.
John, you spoke to both coaches. What did they tell you?
Well, I just was able to get Brian Dutcher, Spiro, and he told me, look, guys, we got to get some fight into the game. We also can't keep giving in a frustration. Frustration is the enemy for every player. That can't be us. We have to fight through that and bring fight to this game, Spiro.
John, North Carolina, their 9th time in the last 12 games that they scored at least 40 points in a half. As the Aztecs come up empty on their first trip. Corner 3 from Withers won't go.
Everybody from San Diego State has to be happy that that shot did not go in. And they just keep firing, but nothing's going down for them.
So San Diego State, 24% from the field, and B.J. Davis now jumped 1 for 5. This isn't an offense that can ill afford to have their top couple of scorers struggle to this extent, where they got Lubin right at the rim. Shot clock didn't reset, it's at 6. Davis, little bump, fires over B.J. Davis, and he hits again.
Well, what's happening, too, is, and it happened late in that first half, San Diego State works that shot clock down to about 5, and Davis just understands that as well as any player, to be the ability to be able to step away and shoot it under duress with the clock disappearing on. It's up for grabs this one.
There's a steal. And this thing going from bad to worse quickly. Drake Powell, the theft.
And here's that step away. He spaces himself just a little bit with Davis there, trying to guard him.
So, an intentional foul, easy call for the officials. So, free throws. North Carolina with a chance to build on their lead. Jimmy, look at San Diego State, just how good this defense is with what they've built the last couple of years with Brian Dutcher. And of course, it started before him with Steve Fisher. They held 2 teams this season to 47 points or less in a half, in an entire game, I should say. And look at what the Tar Heels have done already.
Keep in mind, the Tar Heels have scored 90 or more points 11 times this year. So, you know, we've spoken about it in the first half. They can really, really do some damage on the offensive end. But I think if you brought Hubert Davis over here right this second and asked him what was better, both are good, but what was better, defense or offense for him, I'll bet you he would lean towards the defensive side.
First missed free throw of the night for the Tar Heels. And now possession after that intentional whistle. On the wing, this is Withers. On the box, good ball movement. Cadeau swatted by Guav. 7th in Division I this season in blocks.
Averaging 2.6, and he can time it, and he stays away from you at the same time. Incredible timing. Just the extra passes that Carolina is making.
R.J. Davis, maybe a little bit of contact. Boy, an awfully late whistle. But Doug Sermons will indeed put R.J. Davis at the free throw line. It's on B.J. Davis. And the frustration for Brian Dutcher and company continues.
I thought it was a touch late. I think he gets him on the elbow, though. So I think it's the right call. The whistle was just blown a fraction late.
Jimmy, you mentioned Carolina hitting that 90-point mark this season, 7th most of any Division I team in the country. And so, you know, look, a lot of basketball left, 18+ minutes. But if this thing holds, you know, the conversation is going to turn real quick from, you know, the controversial entry into the field for Carolina to how far can this team go?
Well, it might turn into a conversation of like one of those, I don't really want to play them next, you know? And you hear people say that, you don't want to play this team. If you can avoid them, avoid them. There are some teams in the NCAA that have caught the, you know, the heat at the right time. I always think it's like the last 8 games of the regular season into the tournament. And Ole Miss is watching this game, and I'm thinking they're scratching their heads saying, team that might not have been in here is going to be playing us most likely.
Yeah, this is not your typical last team in the field as B.J. Davis gets one from the top of the key. Well, we know, Jim, a team from the first 4 has advanced to the round of 32 in each of the last 4 NCAA tournaments as Lubin with an easy deuce.
Just continue to really stack up the assists, Spiro. There are 11 assists for their 16 buckets. Just everybody involved. I'm almost getting the feeling right now with the way Carolina is playing at the offensive end. Nobody's hunting down a shot. Finally, San Diego State gets a couple in a row to go, but they're not hunting shots. They're passing the basketball, and they're passing it 2 or 3 extra times when necessary.
So 3 minutes gone by in the second half. Aztecs were looking for something early in the half just to get their confidence up. But the Tar Heels continue to play at such a high level. Miles Bird, little hesitation maneuver. And Bird, Jim, still looking for his first points incredibly. Young man who averaged nearly 13 per game.
And then you see that play there with Lubin reading the ball. A lot of times the bigs forget to watch the ball, Spiro. He had his hands up, getting ready to catch it. And just an easy finish for him.
A witness why AEW is the future of the fight. Don't miss the explosive action of All Elite Wrestling's Wednesday Night Dynamite, live at 8 on TBS and streaming on Max. So great to have you with us. Dayton, Ohio, first night of the first 4 as we begin this 2025 version of the Big Dance. Spiro Ditas, Jim Spinarkle, John Rothstein, rest of our True TV crew. Withers goes up and under.
You notice the way North Carolina is reading the big guy, too. They know he's in there, but they're not afraid to challenge him, but they're making passes around him.
A little bit long on the stroke that time was Jared Coleman-Jones. And then a loose ball foul. You know, it was interesting. We spoke to Hubert Davis about what that emotional scene was like after the ACC semifinal loss to Duke, where Withers had the lane violation, a free throw that would have tied that game. in the closing seconds. He said when they got back into the locker room, Withers collapsed on the floor, overcome with emotions, but seeing his teammates, as Guath is going to earn a trip to the free throw line, seeing his teammates pick him up, Hubert said, was so moving, and just it really made him proud of this group. And look at how they've responded here just a couple of days later.
And I'll add to that too, Spiro, the fact that Hubert Davis joined him together to answer questions after that game. I thought that was a class move on Hubert Davis, and you got to be devastated if you're that kid. There's no other word to use.
John, what do you got?
Well, guys, no doubt about it. And I also think it should be pointed out that part of the reason why North Carolina has made a jump in the last month has been Withers and Van Lubin in the front court. And Withers has had a big part of this three-point shooting. Guys, last year at North Carolina, Jalen Withers only made 4 three-point shots. This year, entering tonight, he was at 36. He's completely recalibrated that area of his game. And as we're seeing, it's helping the Tar Heels, Spiro.
He's just taken such a massive leap. Second year in the program after his 3 years at Louisville. And if this team makes a deep run, he is going to be a huge reason why, as he continues just to put it all together.
Yeah, to add to John's point there, too, and your point, Spiro, he's shooting it at 44% from 3. I mean, that's a huge number.
R.J. Davis trying to fend off Coleman Jones. Backdoor Withers, unable to squeeze it. And it's a turnover. So we'll get a timeout on the floor as we play early stages, second half. Aztecs looking for something down big on True TV. This North Carolina defense tonight has been sensational.
Just timely defense, the effort, the push. I like the way they're getting the basketball off the defensive side of the floor and then looking to go down the court in a hurry. It's just been, Hubert Davis has to be totally happy with this, and obviously he's not finished working over there because he still has just under 16 minutes to go, but this has been a clinic so far.
And forcing turnovers, Jim, actually has been a weakness for this team, this North Carolina team this season. But that has certainly not been the case tonight. Another missed opportunity for San Diego State as we play with 15 and change left in regulation.
There's small versus big. Let's see what he does now.
R.J. Davis, little hesitation. The kick, Withers. And the loose change by Bird, weak side.
Still got a terrific shot, though.
Here comes Nick Boyd, high arching floater. Young man who had to overcome the foot fracture, the surgery, middle part of July, 3-month recovery, Jim, after the surgery. He's come so far in what has been a terrific season for Brian Dutcher and his team. As we get a whistle here against the Aztecs, and we mentioned it at the top. It used to be at San Diego State, and Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher, you'd have to sit on the bench, earn your keep for a couple of years before you saw the floor. Dutcher has had to play more first-year players with this team, maybe than he ever has in the past.
Yeah, and as we touched on in the first half, 90% of his scoring was lost from last year's team, and 90% of the minutes. Beautiful set right there, coming off the screen too for Davis, but they almost look tonight. Carolina is making them look like they lost a whole lot of points and minutes from last year's team, where North Carolina has been dominating.
This is Guath on the box, drops, steps, and then able to put it down. Lubin clears. Here comes Trimble. Boy, he is a flash, quickly getting down the paint. Wow, Tex, boy, my goodness, Cadeau has been all over the place. This will be a reach-in against Boyd. Elliot Cadeau, by the way, tonight, 7 points, Jim, 10 assists. That was his 3rd steal.
And only 1 turnover. Beautifully timed. As soon as that ball leaves the dribbler's hands, that's the time to go for that steal. Takes that little bit longer for it to get to the floor, and you have that time to get it.
By the way, he's got 10 assists. San Diego State has 11 field goals in the game. Withers on the attack. Contact from Guath, and Withers going to shoot 2. Let's check in with John.
All right, Spiro, well, you were talking about the youth of San Diego State. Let's remember that the lone returnee from last year's team for San Diego State that lost to UConn in the Sweet 16 that was expected to have a major role, Reese Waters, was not able to play this year due to an injury. He has been forced to redshirt, so a guy that was probably a first-team All-Mountain West player was not able to play for the Aztecs. They're still in the NCAA tournament, but obviously this team would have been more formidable if he could play this year.
Yeah, redshirted, hoping to have him next year. And those two injuries, you know, Boyd was just coming back from the foot surgery right on the eve of training camp, and really within the span of just a couple of days, Waters went down with his foot injury. And obviously it has been an uphill climb to try to fill the big expectations that this team had.
Yeah, but keep in mind, they're still with 21-9 coming into night, 14-6 in their conference. So
it's a testament to this staff.
Yeah, exactly.
Aaron pass a little bit too far in front of Trimble. And that is a North Carolina turnover.
I mean, the one thing you can expect, though, San Diego State, they'll still give the effort. You can guarantee that. Now, whether or not they can chip into this lead is another question, but their effort will be there. This program, the culture of this program doesn't know how to do it any other way.
This is McKinney on the curl and hits. Just think of what Brian Dutcher has built, of course, carrying on what Steve Fisher began. Taking this program to the championship game 2 years ago, that 2023 national runner-up season. And, you know, in a lot of ways, you become a victim of your own success, Jim. Yeah. You know, possession arrow here will keep it with the Tar Heels. But, boy, they have just run into a buzzsaw here tonight with Carolina.
Yeah, they really have, except for the last 3 possessions. I think those 3 possessions that North Carolina had, that's where you see Hubert Davis always yelling at the guys on the bench who didn't turn it over, but that's what coaches do.
R.J. Davis, just masterful. 21 points for the #2 all-time scorer in North Carolina history.
When he has it going, he makes it look so easy out there. Not to say that it is, but he is 7 for 10 from the floor. Yeah, 5 for 5 on the 3-point shots. Quick release.
Carolina's all-time leader in threes and games played. Graduate player out of White Plains, New York. Three-pointer rims out for McKinney. Here comes Davis into the corner. Jackson. Where Carolina's still working hard. Loose balls, Boyd and Trimble get tangled up, and it belongs to the Aztecs.
I was just going to say the same thing, Spiro, that, you know, you're up 28 points, and they're just not pulling back one bit, which is a great sign for North Carolina at this point.
Love to see that sportsmanship between those two. Nick Boyd's going to take a seat. What a career it's been for Boyd, the graduate player, part of that Florida Atlantic Final Four team a couple of years ago with Dusty May.
Struggling tonight from the field at 3 for 12.
McKinney elevates. Just can't get that three-pointer to drop now. 4 of 21 are the Aztecs tonight from deep. Triple drive from Davis.
Pretty good balance by North Carolina.
San Diego State's Davis going to earn a trip to the free throw line. Seth Trimble a little bit mystified at that call. And B.J. Davis to the line. Elliot Cadeau is going to check back into the game here, and R.J. Davis is going to take a seat. And a nice ovation for behind that bench.
Yeah, real good effort by Davis. So smooth, under control. turnover number pretty good, even though it's at 9, but it was early 6. It was 6 in the first 5 minutes of this game for North Carolina.
At last whistle, officials ruled non-shooting.
Upstairs.
Jackson! Boy, and then the putback, boy. Give Trimble all kinds of credit. He's had some great hustle plays tonight for Carolina. And the lead is 30.
And they just keep pushing, too. Selective running.
Jackson! And they are teeing off against this Aztecs defense. Unbelievable. Carolina 10 of 15 from deep.
Well, you hit on those numbers in the first half, Spiro, in terms of when they're shooting the ball well from the three-point line. They're a different team, as are most teams.
B.J. Davis a chance at the N1 when we come back. A bunch of young Carolina fans, they're going gaga today for their Tar Heels. The First Four continues tomorrow on True TV with Mount St. Mary's and American, and then Xavier taking on Texas. The night begins at 6 p.m. Eastern with the Nissan NCAA tip-off show. And we are looking forward to it as we welcome you back courtside. Spiro Dedes and Jim Spinarca. What a performance we've seen so far from this North Carolina team as they hold a 30-point advantage. Had that incredible finish in the opener. Alabama State, Jim, getting their first ever NCAA tournament win. And now the Tar Heels making their statement as they will call a goaltend here and credit the basket to Elliot Cadeau.
And we've spoken about the Tar Heels and Davis, the way he's played with his numbers, but Cadeau has done just as well. Almost a double-double in terms of 9 points, 10 assists.
71-39. This proud San Diego State program, you just rarely see them have these kinds of nights. You just hate to see it for these kids happen on this kind of a stage. As Miles Heide is bumped, and now Miles Bird still down on the deck. Just hasn't been his night. Just 2 points for Bird. Well, it looked like he may have turned that ankle. Oh boy.
Wow.
Gonna limp his way to the bench. And now Heide's gonna shoot a couple of free throws. You know, it's interesting, Jim. Last time North Carolina played in this building, you go back to the 2006 NCAA tournament. Dayton, a first-round site that year. They knocked off Murray State in the first round, and then in the second round, they took on the 11 seed George Mason, which had just come off an upset over Michigan State. A lot of people in Chapel Hill felt real good about their chances. Of course, George Mason would go on to shock them in the second round and would go on to nearly complete one of the all-time runs in the history of the tournament. They're going to have a lot better memories the way this thing is going tonight. There's Trimble accelerating to the cup.
One of the things that's impressive watching North Carolina, too, is the speed of their guards. I mean, each and every one of the 3 guards that basically are out there, whether it's Cadeau, whether it's Trimble at the time, or Davis, are like lightning with the basketball.
Three-pointer from B.J. Davis. And those three-point struggles for the Aztecs continue. This is Ian Jackson into the paint.
Most of these guys have had no trouble going by their defender. And once again, San Diego State trademark is the defensive side of the floor.
So Jackson is going to sit for Hubert Davis. Cadeau now the inbounder. Davis the elevation, and he's going to shoot free throws. Let's get a little update here on Bird as we go to John.
All right, Spiro. Well, Miles Bird is okay to go back in. The trainer for San Diego State just taped up his ankle. He just rolled it bad, but he can go back in the game.
Maybe the best piece of news they've had all night.
Yep, not much really.
It's R.J. Davis now at the free throw line, one of the all-time careers, Jim. You think of who's come through that place in the history of their men's program. #2 scorer behind Tyler Hansborough. 3rd most ever career points in the history of the ACC. Just an unbelievable run for this young man out of White Plains, New York.
Yeah, one thing to say the Carolina program, but when you add the ACC with the players that have come through there.
Yourself included.
Oh, thank you.
Nice drive and finish. Boyd able to get to the rack as we come up on the 9-minute mark. 75-42, just hard to believe after the last couple of days. All the conversation surrounding this Carolina team as Lubin explodes to the cup. And will shoot a couple of free throws.
Yeah, as you see this little lob to the basket. Put right there, but fouled, or that would have been another flush. Just getting your hand in there quick enough is Coleman Jones. You start to think too, Spiro. Notice 9 minutes left here, assuming they obviously hold on to this game in advance. It's an Ole Miss they get. You just wonder, have they hit a run right now in this defense and offense? It's only one game, but they're 8-2 over their last 10 games. So I always look at the last, 8 to 10 games, regular season, and then into the tournaments and see how teams have been playing. When you think about it, I'd want to be 8-2 coming into the tournament. So then you put together a blast like this, and you start to think, well, the next game up, what are they going to look like? Will they look like this, or will they look like a bit of the inconsistent team that's been playing all season long?
Turnover by Guath. Powell up and under. And again, Jim, there's just something to be said for the teams that are able to come to the first four. Again, the circumstances aren't always ideal, having to play your way through here in the first four, but something to be said for able to hit the ground a little bit earlier than the other teams. Again, each of the last 4 years, a team from the first four has made it to at least the round of 32. And you think of all the deeper runs that we've seen. First ever first four, VCU, that incredible run to the Final Four.
And the other thing, just to tag that when you said hit the ground, they didn't hit the ground in Dayton. Their plane was delayed for practices yesterday. And you think a little adversity would throw them off, but that hasn't hurt them either. So nothing has slowed them down.
And Carolina, a little bit of a plane delay yesterday, had to move their practice back a couple hours last night. But that has not impacted their performance level tonight. My goodness. Tar Heels shooting 59% if you've just joined us.
Yeah, they have San Diego State has found themselves in this situation with Davis a lot tonight.
There's the kick, corner three. And Drake Powell just a little bit short.
You almost expect every shot to go in from the corners for them.
There's Magoon Guath. Look at the big fella move. The spin, just couldn't put it down. His first game in 3 weeks. Davis, transition bucket. North Carolina looking fierce. And R.J. Davis still hasn't missed from deep. 6 of 6. The arena, always an incredible sight. And look at that score, a 40-point North Carolina lead.
Triggered by the defense, too, early on in this game, and they continued in the second half. Here's the delivery and the drive and transition. And this is a beauty right here. This is a transition pull-up jumper from long range by Davis. Well executed.
And R.J. Davis, as if he doesn't have enough all-time records at Carolina. Most threes in an NCAA tournament game now, 6. And he is perfect from deep so far. Compton, nicely set up underneath by Boyd. So Nick Boyd's gonna get his chance. First at timeout with 7 and change left here in Dayton. There's our game summary and a score and a box score that really is hard to believe. 38-point North Carolina lead with 7:14 left. R.J. Davis just exceptional tonight for the Tar Heels.
That's a great picture of him smiling, and he's been smiling all night with the way he's been shooting the basketball. She touched on 6 of 6 from long range. Just picture perfect. And some of them were against the shot clock a few times that he hit bombs against San Diego State, but just extraordinary. 8 for 12 overall, 26 points to add to his magnificent North Carolina career in totals.
So Compton completes the three-point play. San Diego State's first top 100 recruit in a number of years. Top high school recruit in the state of Nevada. As we hit the 7-minute mark now left in regulation. Coleman Jones, little hand on it, and it's a Tar Heels turnover. Jimmy, just think of where this Tar Heels team was. February the 20th, after their 14-11 start, they went to Clemson, got blown out.
Yep.
Really a turning point in their season as they start to get a standing ovation. A number of their starters now done for the night, including R.J. Davis and Cadeau. From that point on, they reeled off 6 wins in 7 games, then the 2 wins in the ACC tournament. And it's just amazing to see how this team has turned the corner.
Yeah, and I think it's smart, too, what Hubert David is doing here is getting some players out of this game.
Coleman Jones up and under.
He's going to start bringing other substitutes into the game.
Foul charged. So Washington is his 4th as we throw it over to John.
Well, Spiro, we have seen teams use the first 4 as a springboard since this obviously part of the NCAA tournament began. Shaka Smart told me 14 years ago when VCU went in 2011 from the first 4 to the final 4, it was like oxygen getting this opportunity to play in Dayton. It'll be interesting to see how this really carries North Carolina moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you think back to last year, Virginia, controversial. A lot of people felt like maybe they shouldn't have been in. They got absolutely blown out here by Colorado State. Now North Carolina, similar set of circumstances, but a completely different level performance with what we've seen tonight from the Tar Heels.
Yeah, when you look at their lineup, I mean, I really like the perimeter play, the wing play. You got 2 guys who are 6'8", 6'9", really, and Lubin and Withers. I mean, it's a nice complementary team they have. And
Ian Jackson. And the Tar Heels ain't done just yet.
Not yet. Unfortunately for San Diego State, there's still 6 minutes left in this.
Nick Boyd, little contact.
Yep, little trip.
Another look at the stroke from Jackson.
Where's the defender, though? Just left him in his tracks as he slipped and went the other way.
Jackson, another amazing story. ACC All-Rookie, 2nd most points off the bench in the conference this year. He did start 12 games, but a freshman out of the Bronx, New York, out of Our Savior Lutheran, a young man who is observing Ramadan and has been doing so for the last few weeks. Nothing to drink or eat from sunup to sundown.
Yep.
And so you can imagine having to play at this level physically, Jim. The one advantage of the late tip tonight was able to get a meal and to drink some fluids before this game.
Right.
It's been a big part of his story over the last couple of weeks.
And when you think about that too, Spiro, I mean, not to tag that with his struggles, but he was only 3 for 16 in the ACC tournament. So I don't know whether it affected him. That was the reason, but he has been struggling as of late.
Seth Trimble gets it back from Jackson. He'll launch. And the rebound by Guaf. So final 5:37. San Diego State's going to end their season with a 21-10 record.
Oh, that's a pull.
As Compton called on the loose ball foul. As Claude was able to corral it for Carolina. And the North Carolina Tar Heels are going to start getting those flights booked for Milwaukee as they are moving on for a first-round date with Chris Beard and Ole Miss. What a matchup that is going to be on Thursday.
Yeah, you might mention too, Spiro, a lot of Carolina blue T-shirts and sweatshirts in the crowd tonight. They traveled pretty well to date.
Does that bring back some memories for you?
I'm sorry.
That's the kind of night it's been for the Aztecs. Compton wanted to generate the steal, and then they just couldn't corral it in the corner. Let's throw it back over to John.
Well, Spiro, the largest margin of defeat for San Diego State under Brian Dutcher is 30. That was last year in the Sweet 16 against UConn. Right now, this game obviously looking to usurp that, Spiro.
Yeah, losing to the Huskies each of the last 2 years to John reigning champs. Tyson gets his first crack. Not able to get the block on Claude underneath. And the officials say stay right here.
Yep.
Well, Brian Dutcher and this staff, they'll reload like they always do every year. The perennial power that they've become out of the Mountain West Conference.
They just did not see this kind of effort from North Carolina coming at them when we were speaking to Brian yesterday, that's for sure. I'm not sure how many people saw this coming.
Trimble, hesitation maneuver, and gets the little floater. And he's got 16.
And he's showing some real quickness and control at the same time tonight with his game. And I just continue to look at the turnovers for North Carolina. They have 10 total. I think they had 6 in the first 5 minutes of this game. So they've really, against a San Diego State team that we've talked about, deflects a lot of balls in the first 3 or 4 minutes of this game. Remember Hubert Davis speaking to John Rothstein saying, hey, we're turning the ball over way too much. Well, they put an end to that the last 30 minutes or so.
Just a dazzling offensive display, really at both ends from the Tar Heels. As Jackson works against Davis, stops.
Probably one of the few forced shots that we've seen North Carolina take.
Wow. Well, it was wild, and finally it's Bird.
I'm not sure that was by design. Bird looks like he's struggling a little bit up and down the court, going back down on defense with that ankle.
So Miles Bird finally gets his first basket of the night. Washington getting his hands dirty. And the officials say jump. And the possession arrow favors the Tar Heels. You think Bubba Cunningham's feeling good about this one? His Tar Heels, magnificent here in Dayton. About to be moving on to Milwaukee. North Carolina, one of the iconic college basketball brands. Most all-time NCAA tournament wins, Final Four appearances, most ever, and 6 national championships. All the talk about this team, controversial entry into the field, possibly being a disappointing finish to their season. Jim, they got other plans as they're about to flip the script. See just how far they can take this thing after this win.
You can push that discussion off until Friday again if you want.
Hubert Davis continues to start to empty his bench. James Brown has checked into the game, the freshman out of Aurora, Illinois. Jackson banks it in. Why not?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Why not? The way this has been going. That little guy likes it.
12th game this season that Carolina has eclipsed 90 points. That's Miles Heide, corner three for the Aztecs. That's their first three-pointer of the half, Jim, and only their 5th all night.
A 5 for 24 effort, just under 21%. You have to credit the defensive effort on the perimeter by North Carolina.
Corner three won't go that time from Tyson.
They're encouraging the bench, encouraging to take that shot.
B.J. Davis, little floater. Kimo Ferrari, young man who's got one of the best names in the sport, has checked into the game for Brian Dutcher and San Diego State as we come up on the final 2 minutes here in Dayton. Jackson crosses over. Offensive rebound and the putback. James Brown going to get his name on the final box score here in Dayton. And that's McKinney at the other end.
Yeah, I know it's a long time over, but San Diego State at the offensive end getting a couple of looks finally.
What do you think Chris Beard and his staff are thinking about as they start to make preparations? Boy, look at Trimble up and under. What a matchup that's going to be, Jim, between those two teams in Milwaukee on Thursday. McKinney, and that's good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what he's thinking. I think he's thinking, let Carolina get this all out of their system and leave it in Dayton. Because if they travel with this, there's going to be some problems.
An American in the early game, and then Xavier and Texas in the nightcap, and we'll be bringing it to you again on True TV tomorrow night. Ty Quallett, little spin fade. And Ferrari with the clean strip underneath as we're inside of a minute. The body bumping. Aside Lopez takes a little bit of a whack on the perimeter with 46.4 seconds. And a double bonus for San Diego State. And a long season, Jim, will come to an end for this Aztecs team. Nick Boyd, everything that young man has overcome as he nears the end of his basketball journey.
You know, Spear, you're talking about what you can expect with North Carolina. I have to look at, sometimes I look at these games like in the old, you know, baseball team puts up like 15 runs in a game. You like say, well, stop hitting, save some of those hits for the next day. And that's what I'm sure the opponent is thinking right now. Get this all out of your system and don't bring these three-point shooting. And they finished 13 for 22 for that shot.
Dante Mayo Jr. on a three, a little bit too much. And boy, these kids still flying all over the place. This tremendous hustle.
Some of these kids will never get another chance to play in an NCAA game like this.
So North Carolina team that was number 10, Jim, in the preseason AP poll. I think when the poll makers put that thing together, this was the squad that everyone envisioned. My goodness, if they put it together at just the right time. 92-63 as Ferrari hits on the first.
Yeah, with that, you know, they were picked to finish second in the ACC preseason poll too, so they were right up there at the beginning of the year with the expectations.
North Carolina will win its 23rd game of the season, 23-13, as they will very quickly start to begin their preparations for Ole Miss on Thursday in Milwaukee. Dante Mayo Jr. get into the party here in Dayton. Final seconds. There's a three. So Cam Lewine with that last second three, and it is over. Hubert Davis and his North Carolina Tar Heels with just a tremendous all-around performance as they slice up San Diego State and win it 95-68. As they will silence the critics at least for a couple of days before they head to Milwaukee in a first-round date with Ole Miss on Friday afternoon.
You know, it's an old throwback name, North Carolina, one of the Blue Bloods, and they're not supposed to be doing it this way, but they impressed tonight. Looking forward to look at the Marquette, New Mexico game. This bracket will be interesting, and I guess there's this guy Tom Izzo lurking around again in March with Michigan State.
R.J. Davis, one of his best ever games in the tournament, 26 points, and he is standing by with Hubert Davis and John Rothstein.
All right, Hubert, congratulations. What is it like coaching somebody like this?
It's a blessing and an honor. I mean, for 5 years, I've been one of his coaches, and for 4 years, I've been his head coach. I'm still trying to call the NCAA, see if I can get him back for a 6th year. The confidence level I have as a coach, being around RJ over the last 5 years, absolutely amazing.
How did this team go from 14-11 to the dominant team we saw tonight?
Well, we did a couple things. You know, we talked about it at that 8-minute mark. We really got after it defensively, and we took care of the basketball. And
Art, go ahead.
yeah, no, we finished our defensive possession with the rebound, and then we got out in transition.
RJ, what was your message to your teammates as they embarked on the NCAA tournament with you who have been through it before?
Just stay one game at a time and just make sure our preparation is ready for a couple of games. I mean, to get into March, to play in March, it's a dream of a lifetime, and not a lot of these guys got the chance to actually experience it. So I think half the team, this is their first March Madness, so we're just going to take full advantage of it, and we're just super blessed.
Why were you in such a rhythm tonight?
Just trusting my work, and I think my teammates put me in good positions to be able to knock down shots, and I'm a confident kid, and that's what I did tonight.
Congrats to both of you. Most importantly, safe travels.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Spiro.
All right, John, what a performance for Hubert Davis. Storied tradition of Carolina, but this group trying to write their own NCAA tournament script. What a performance here in Dayton.